Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi. We're back.
We are back.
It's been a minute.
It's been the summer of deals.
The summer of deals. My gosh.
I feel like the deals, though, this summer haven't necessarily been easy.
No.
A lot of back and forth.
Yeah, but with great opportunity. Or no, I said that wrong. With great challenge comes great opportunity.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So the more you have that are really difficult, I think the more you learn.
Yeah.
And then when
you
you
get
have
to shine.
Yeah, and then when you have one that's kind of smooth sailing, you're like, wow,
what is this? Did I do everything?
Can we go back to that every single time, please? Repeat.
Oh my gosh.
Rinse,
100%.
lather, repeat. Yeah. It's been a busy summer for sure.
Hey, I wouldn't want it any other way, though.
No.
I wouldn't want to be
We love
sitting twiddling my thumbs.
We can't be bored.
So, no.
That's what I tell people about real estate. I'm like, man, the one thing I will say about my job, I am never bored.
100%. Also, what I have noticed is a transaction can be super smooth and you're sailing along and then something happens and you're like, oh,
just kidding.
I thought this was going to be easy.
Actually, it just almost blew up.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. But, well, today I think we're going to do a really short episode, but powerful episode just on the, I just said powerful, but power of preparation.
The power of preparation. We also did the power of pivoting.
We like power.
we like to own our power here in real estate.
But it's important.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is.
We saw it highlighted a few weeks ago, actually. You were hosting an open house on one of your listings. And an individual came in, fell in love with the house. And because it was your listing, the way that our brokerage is set up, you couldn't represent her directly if they were wanting to buy. So you referred them out over to me. We saw the house again, brought in the husband. He loved it as well.
You took him to see the house at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, too.
Look,
dedication.
Luckily I'm a
Dedication
morning
over here.
person, but 100%. I definitely had coffee in hand.
Yeah.
But they loved it. And we're very excited, but they really hadn't laid the groundwork yet. So what that looked like is they quickly had to get with a lender, understand the numbers, look at their house, and over the course of that week of trying to figure all that out, things kind of unraveled.
Yeah.
Realizing that, yes, they would qualify for this amount of a purchase, but they really didn't want to spend that much on a mortgage. And then I think there was just maybe a little bit of, we can all do this when we're living in our own space, kind of a lack of touch with reality of maybe what they had to get ready to actually sell and sell at a price that they wanted so that they could have the down payment and things like that. And so it kind of broke my heart because they were maybe shopping before it was time. Mm-hmm. And they fell in love with something. We're so excited, but there was really no way to pull it off in any shape or form, financially, time-wise, things like that. And so, and I've seen that happen a couple of times now. Yeah. And sometimes we kind of get in the weeds and we figure it out and we're kind of shocked. And we're like, wow, it worked. But I think a lot of times you can't quite make it happen.
Yeah, I tell buyers a lot of times, let's get started in this process, but don't fall in love too quickly, especially if they have a house to sell. But the hard thing is a lot of times people will roll into an open house, fall in love, and then it's like they don't even know if they can afford the house, right? So a lot of times I'll tell my sellers that when I'm hosting an open house, I'm like, hey, sometimes the people who come in here are like nosy neighbors who are like, oh my gosh, I just want to see. And it's like, oh, are you wanting your mom to move in? No, I just want to see. And then you're like, all right. And then sometimes you have your very first getting started buyers who are like, what a beautiful home. And they've probably, what is kind of sad and heartbreaking is they've probably had it in their heart for a while. Yeah. And they haven't really done anything about it because they don't know what to do. Yeah. So that's why I always say, explore it. Talk to someone, even if you are a ways out. Yeah. And something else to consider, like when you're walking into other people's homes, it's a lot easier to notice, like, oh, look at the baseboards. Those could be, repainted. But then when you're living in your house, it doesn't always translate the thing that you're used to, the comfort that you're in with like your mess, if you will.
It's kind of like when I deep clean and then I'm like, oh wow,
yeah, look at
that's
this.
white again. Like I didn't realize
You
that
look
it
so good.
turned.
You clean
Right,
up well.
exactly.
Yeah.
But we can do that on a large scale with our homes, that we're trying to sell.
Yeah, but it is important because then you can, especially if it's out of your price point.
Yes,
it can be devastating for buyers to be like, oh man, I loved that one, and then I'm like, well, let's get you pre-approved.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, well, we need to be looking about $300,000 less. And that can just be really hard.
Yeah.
So I think it's better you set yourself up for more success. And I mean, a lot of times people at the beginning of the year, they'll do their resolution, New Year's resolution, their goals. And I think sometimes people are like, we want to buy a house this year.
Yeah.
And I don't think they think about, maybe I should go ahead and start talking to someone so that I can see, do I need to pay something off? Do I need to get my credit score 15 points higher?
Yeah.
Some of those things can take not long, but like on bank statements and stuff like that, it can take 30 days. It can take 60 days. So it's good to kind of go in eyes wide open and think before you act, if that makes sense.
100%. I think even talking to a lender, a real estate individual, potentially even a CPA, depending on if you're dealing with like self-employment, things like that. I mean, it can take up to 2 years of that self-employment money rolling in and your tax returns to actually get to a place where you can be qualified for what you're going after. You might be making the money, but if you're taking tons of deductions even, that can affect in qualifying. So to get a team together, sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, you're good. Everything does kind of, it depends on the loan, the structure of the loan, the structure of your income. And on the other flip side of that, sometimes I've had people be like, I don't think we're going to be qualified for at least another 6 months. And then they get in the process and they're like, oh, wait, we could do this now.
Yeah.
And then I think you're in a better position when you're there, because it's like, hey, we've got some time to find something. If we don't find something we love, we're not stressed out.
Yeah.
But it's always better to know than ahead of time than going in with falling in love with something and then realizing you can't afford it.
Yeah. And even on the non-financial side of things, if you know, in 1 to 2 years, maybe say you're renting right now. In 1 to 2 years, we know that we want to own. Well, that gives you time to explore different neighborhoods, different cities around where you are, even understand your commute. And because that makes a huge difference. Yeah. It is not always the price point. It is not always just, that's a cute house. Like, you want the house to be in a location where you're going to thrive and enjoy your life as well.
Right.
And so I think just by giving yourself space to really explore a purchase at this level is so, so helpful. Yeah. Get that team around you of professionals, because also there might be things that you just don't know as a consumer that we do because we're in it day in and day out, that we can say, actually, you can afford more because of this, this, and this. Or actually, you probably, case in point with the open house, like, hey, you can afford this sticker price, but you're not going to be wanting to pay $4,000 a month. You want to be at $3,000, which means don't start looking at this price home.
Yeah.
So,
and I would say for sellers as well, thinking about, I think every seller kind of knows those things that have been on their like
to-do list.
We're going to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't, or they forget. And then it's like, and it can be small things like, we took out the smoke detectors because they were beeping one night and we just never, and those kind of things, if it's an FHA loan, if it's a VA loan, they show up in inspections and they actually can be something that delays closing, because then they have to send out another appraisal, an appraiser to come back a second time to make sure those things have been done. And I think you were mentioning from your these previous clients that you went to their home and the dishwasher's not working, and it's like things like that, that needs to be done before listing your house.
Takes time too.
Right.
Like, even if they were ready to spend all the money the next day and go out and do it, ordering a dishwasher at times can take a few weeks to get it from the store, get it installed, stuff like that. Sometimes you get lucky and it happens quickly, but especially if you've already fallen in love with another house that you're wanting to put an offer on, you have to get your house ready like that.
Right. And if you don't want to be on that hustle bus, on that train of like, oh my gosh, this plumber's not available, maybe we find this guy, and then you find yourself kind of cutting corners. or spending more
Way
than
more.
you need to,
Because
because
big
if you
companies.
right, if you
charge
had have
more.
gotten it done previously, or if you had have thought about it early enough to give yourself the time, then you could have saved yourself money, you could have saved yourself stress.
Yeah.
And the process is already stressful enough. So it's just a really good practical tool to know going in that will save you down the long run.
100%. And I know on this podcast we like to veer every once in a while from just specifically real estate and preparation. And I think this applies in life as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Of like, we all carry those different dreams and desires in our hearts, and we're just waiting for that day, right? In that moment. And we think, well, when it comes, like, I'll be ready. Well, not if you're not thinking about it or walking towards it or preparing. And so I just want to kind of like pull us out of real estate just for a second. And I'm speaking to myself as well right now. But can you look at some of your dreams and say, hey, they might not be here yet, but are there things that I can start adjusting in my life or doing in my life or seeking new connections or wisdom or skill sets that will aid me when that timeline comes,
Yeah.
so that I can jump?
Yeah. Something I've learned in life, especially with getting to know so many people and relationships and networking, is you often have people who are way, way better at being present, and they struggle with the future. They struggle with, like, you ask somebody, what's your 5-year goal? And they're like, couldn't tell you. And then you have some people that are so future oriented and they've got their 5, 10, 15-year plan, and they really struggle to be present.
Yeah.
They really struggle to be like, I mean, the other day I heard this guy talking, it was raining, and grew up in a farm.
Okay.
And he was like, I love the rain. I always take a minute to just pause and, like, you know, thank God for like watering the earth. And I was
Yeah.
like, I was sitting at a train when it was raining, and I'm like, I can't be
I can't be late.
like, I need to go, you know. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the rain on a snuggle day, whatever, watching a movie.
Yeah.
But honestly, you know, for me, sometimes I flip on either side of that coin, where I'm either so present that it's hard for me to be like, oh, I couldn't tell you where I want to be in 5 years. Or you can get so on to the next thing that you don't take that moment to pause. And I think, like, in life, if you can learn to cultivate both, and most people lean really heavy on one end of the spectrum or the other, but I think being able to see ahead and plan and take those action steps and set those goals, even if they're small, it's so beneficial, because they say this all the time, cinch by the inch, hard by the yard. If you're trying to go in with your 50 feet plan and you can't see the next step, then you usually don't get there. And then you have these lofty goals that just sit there and, oh yeah, I was going to write that book one day, and you're 75 and you're like, well, just kidding.
But if you had just written a page a day, or even a few sentences, maybe that's overwhelming, but you just start. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So I think that's something that just outside of real estate, just applicable to life. Like, you want to be here, you're not there yet. And sometimes there's things that are out of our control.
100%.
Sometimes you're partnering with someone else and their actions are affecting you. But you do what you can do to get yourself to where you want to be.
Agreed.
Also, while taking time to be where you are.
Yeah.
I have friends that, oh my gosh, I just wanted to be married. And then the second they get married, I just want to have babies. And it's like always
I just want to be single again.
Yeah. And then no, truly. And then it's like, oh man, my friend gets to travel, and look at me with these kids. And then that person is out traveling and they're like, I just wanted, and it's just always this like
push and pull.
Yeah. And want what you can't have. And I think if you can just sit with, like, this is my life. What do I want my life to look like? What are the things that I feel called to?
Yeah.
How can I be generous in the midst of that? How can I sacrifice in the midst of that, but also set myself up for as much success as possible? And I think that comes with doing things that maybe you're not good at, like planning.
Yeah. And I think if you can plan, so I am definitely the futuristic type person. Being present is very hard for me, especially with all my ideas. I mean, I come up with like a new idea every day, and I have to be like, okay, wait, we haven't even done the last 10. Like, let's slow our roll for a second. But I think if you can find the balance between planning and being present, like you're saying, but do it at such small increments that you can be present and enjoy, but you're accomplishing things. So, for example, I will bring it back to real estate here for a second, but say you're an individual that owns a house right now and you know within the next 2 years, I am wanting to move. Well, set a goal for in the next 3 months, I'm going to connect with a realtor. Start to understand the market here, what it's looking like. Now, if you're 2 years out, the market can really shift, but you could at least understand what kind of the now going rates are,
Right.
I guess, sales prices. And you can start planning for that. Or you could even maybe have them assess your home now, because now you have a year and a half to slowly each month you could work on a project. And that way it's not all consuming.
Right.
Same thing with the buyer. I know within a year I want to buy. Okay, break it down. Next month I'm going to talk to a lender. The next month after that I'm going to talk to a realtor. The next month after that I'm going to put a wish list together. But that way it's not overwhelming and you can actually be so present with it and make healthier choices. Now, again, that doesn't always happen. Kind of what you were saying. I mean, that's even personally for my husband and I. We were going to rent. I came to Betty at that time and she's like, well, why don't you, because we really wanted to own, but I didn't think financially we were there yet. We had gone through a lot of transition. Our jobs were kind of all over the place. She's like, well, why don't you just talk to a lender? Just in case. And for those of you that watch consistently, I went to Mendy. She was just on our podcast and she took down numbers and she's like, oh, I'll let you know in a day or two, and popped back and she's like, yeah, you qualify for this and you can buy tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. And it was a different, place. But we were lucky enough to be in a place where we could pull trigger because we had some savings. We were staying with family at the time. So we were able to make a quick jump. But that's not typically how it pans out. So, yeah, just that preparation, planning. But I do love your point about being present, especially from a person that's a struggle. I have to tell myself often to.
Yeah. The other thing I would say with planning and preparing, we're going to go ahead and get a home evaluation, even though we know it's not for a while. You have to keep everything open-handed. Even when, I had a listing appointment yesterday, and we're not going to list for a couple of weeks. I'm going to run fresh comps that week to see what's changed. Did the house across the street just go live and now that's our competition? Did this house that's been pending just close and now I have a true comp? That number that I give people, I'm like, it's a range and we might need to make a last minute decision to change the list price. And so it's really good to see ahead and see where you're going and make those. But then I see what happens is, well, a year and a half ago, we got our house assessed at XYZ, and that's not what they said. And it's like, well, this is a very different market a year and a half later. Yeah. So I think it's so powerful to do those things, but also to know that things change. It's just like probably anyone in life that's had some kind of plan for their life. Most of the time, it does not pan out the way they thought it would, right? But it doesn't mean don't have a plan for your life, right? Without vision, you perish. You need to have vision, you need to have a goal. But I would say always go in a little open-handed as to the beauty of where life takes you that you can't actually plan for.
And maybe a great way to look at the planning part of it too would be you are growing in knowledge. You're growing in skill. You're growing in understanding so that you can make a healthy choice when that time comes. So if the numbers change or the plans change or you need to pivot, that's okay, because the end goal right now in the planning stage is to just grow and to be mentally and even spiritually and or emotionally ready for that season.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to getting your house inspected. Like you're not going to know what's coming down the way.
Yeah.
But if you know this could be a problem, are we willing to take this with this possible? Like the AC's old. Is it going to last for 5 more years, or is it going to last for 5 months? Or is it going to go out 5 days after you close? Right? So knowing you don't really know what's going to happen. Best case scenario, you get a brand new AC unit, but that's not always going to happen. So it's the risk of like, okay, I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I'm at least going in educated,
Exactly.
with eyes wide open. So I'm not blindsided. And then all of a sudden my life is falling apart because we have to take care of this thing. Right. I think that's where it's powerful to have that knowledge behind you.
Yeah.
That helps you deal with when things don't go as the way you thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. And last thought that I have on that, which just plays off of everything else, but say you're not even just wanting to own for yourself. Maybe you're wanting to invest. You're like, hey, I have a dream to invest in real estate over the course of time. Well, there's so many different ways to invest. And I feel like if you know that's an end goal and you don't have to be in your young 20s, but say you're in your young 20s and you start asking those questions now, you might be able to invest in a couple of years just because you took the time to start asking those questions and get started before most of us did, where we kind of like fell into it or, that type of thing. If you take the time to really seek out that wisdom of others that have gone before you prior, I think a lot of times you'll have a leg up.
Yeah, I have a client that I actually helped babysit her. It was so wild. I was like, I don't know what year it is.
I'm aging.
But she got her first house at 23.
Yeah.
And she's always been super, very future responsible. But I mean, I looked at her and I was like, man, you're not going to be sorry you did that.
Right.
She's not going to look back and go, oh yeah, I should, I mean, obviously, if you make a bad purchase, something like that could happen.
For
but
sure.
At the end of the day, I was like, man, you're ahead of most people in their 30s right now that are just renting. And she thought ahead. She planned. This is what she wanted to do. She, got her master's degree by 22 and then wanted to get a house. And she started saving for it. And she was disciplined and had self-control to not go do all the things she wanted to do in the moment because she had a goal and I want to save and this is important to me. And then I'm like, man, you really are. She is a leg up. She's got people renting her other rooms that are paying her mortgage. And I'm like, you watch what happens with this girl's life. I just don't know how it's going to play out, but she's making really good decisions really early on.
Yeah.
And she's also willing to sacrifice the temporary high of getting to go shopping or go do this or buy this for the pain.
The long-term gain.
Yes, and the long-term gain. But that pain of I'm not getting to do what I want right now, but I know if I put this extra $150, and yes, it starts with that.
Yeah.
Right? I know if I can just put this extra $150 aside, I'm going to be able to buy that house one day. Yeah. And there's other things you can put your money in high yield savings accounts where you're making 5% on your money each month, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do, but I think having that mentality is really what sets people up for success.
100%. And it just triggered a thought for me too of if you are wanting to buy and you start having these conversations early enough and you realize I don't have the money. I don't have the money for the down payment, things like that. Of course, there's some down payment assistance programs, things like that. But if you're like, no, I want to bring stuff to the table, then that might be looking at other areas of your life and how you prepare. Do you need to gain a new skill set so you can go out and make a higher income? Or do you need to adjust and sacrifice now? Don't get Starbucks every day. I know that's silly, but honestly, it's $6-7 at Starbucks every day. If you times that by a month, what is that? 7 times 3? Oh, 21, $210?
You would be shocked.
Yeah. And so you can, when you seek out this information early, no, don't be bound by every single thing because things can change. But you can start making different choices, creates new habits in your life, develop the new skill sets to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most powerful things about preparation.
Yeah.
As you can think of.
I would say too, just with that, the budgeting, if you have you should budget.
Yes.
Because I think what happens is you start looking and going, I think people would be shocked.
Yeah.
Sit back and go, I did not spend that much on eating out this month.
Yeah.
And you see these funny memes. It's buy to my bank account. And it's it's hilarious, but it's also you can control that. You can say no. You can do the things you need to do to save money.
Yeah.
It's just not fun.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about, but budgeting, I think it's a really big way to plan.
Yep.
If you go, I want to save $500 a month, right? And then let's say you get that bonus, you can pay off what's left on your car. And then that amount that you were paying every month on your car, still put it aside. Don't just go, oh, that's extra money.
Yay.
No, put that aside.
Or like break it down if you want
like,
to.
If you want, let's take $100 out of that for whatever. You need to live your life too. Don't get me wrong. But I just think that those kind of things, go with the planning aspect.
Yes.
And it's also something that people just don't want to do. Because
I do. I love spreadsheets and budgets.
I have a spreadsheet. I do it as well. And I don't mind it. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But it's really good to see.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, if I really say that these are my values in life, is my money lining up with my values in life?
Yep.
If I want to be a generous person and I consider myself generous and generosity is one of the pillars of my life, and I look at my budget and I'm not really giving.
Are you being generous?
Am I generous, or is that an idea?
Through financial.
Through your finances.
Yeah.
And then same thing, like, oh, I say this, but then I spend all this money here.
You know where I'm guilty?
What?
I say I want to be off the sweets. If somebody looked at the amount of times I buy a cookie or a piece of cake, it's okay. We're working on it.
Yeah.
But
it's also okay to do that from time to time, but it's good if you budget for it. You know what I mean? If you would, you're like, okay, I'm going to do that once a month or whatever that is.
Once a month.
Once a day?
No,
Shelby, where are we at?
Probably close to once a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're probably also
once a month is where I should be.
Yeah. You're probably also not buying 100 other things that, you know what I'm saying? You have balance with that.
I'm not worried about the finances of it. I'm worried about the discipline within it. But I think what I was trying to say is, like, I loved what you were saying about, is my money aligning with my values? And I was thinking, ooh, my value is to not eat that much sweets, but I spend a lot of money on sweets.
Yeah. But that's why if you didn't sit down and budget and you didn't look at it, you wouldn't really even know. And so I think a lot of people are just on autopilot, even with their finances. It's like, oh, yeah, I've got some money in the bank, or, I really need to cut back a little bit, but they're not willing to sit down and look. Yeah. And you don't even have to do it yourself. You can get other people to help you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you start looking at it, you go, oh, am I really putting my money where my mouth is within certain things? Like, if I prioritize health, and health is a value of mine,
is that where it's going?
Right. And like, if it's like, oh no, I spend this much on vitamins or supplements or the gym or whatever, and then you look at, okay, I'm spending this much on alcohol, on like eating out, and when you say eating out, you know what you're meaning, like you saw what you had. Yeah. It's like, okay, where is my money backing what I want to be?
Yeah.
And I would say that would be a personal goal within yourself. I want to be generous. I want to be healthy. Are you actually doing the things behind what you're saying to align with that?
100% agree. Now I've got to evaluate my sweet issue.
At first I was like, Swedish. I thought you were going to say Swedish fish, and I was like, is that what you like to eat for your sweets?
Nope. Chocolate all the way.
Okay,
Swedish fish. I mean, they're not terrible, but it wouldn't be my go-to.
Yeah, no. They're not great for you, I'll tell you that. It's probably better to have a cookie.
None of that is.
Yeah.
A homemade cookie.
Yeah. Grass-fed butter. It's fine. I know.
I am all there
they make
for the
sourdough cookies now, too.
What?
My sister makes them. Game changer. I mean, it's still a cookie, but
it's
you have ways to make the cookie better for you.
I'm here for this. Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm guessing we should probably wrap this for
That's
today.
the way the cookie crumbles.
Oh. Can you wink? I cannot wink for the life of me. I can't.
I'm not good at making it look like I look awkward.
Oh.
But
I did. Oh. You didn't. I literally. I can't.
I can try. I can hold on. I did good there. I just have to get it in my mind.
Can anybody else wink? Everybody, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll be back soon.
Bye.
Bye.